Nepal, India should remain inseparably in one place, always, regarding Chinese factor. Another is, since we are non-aligned and sovereign nation, we should maintain the equidistance. Two types of school of thought are there. One school of thought is India, Nepal, bhai bhai. Another school of thought is China also not so far.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sabia Imran, Assistant Professor in Sociology. Actually, my question was, what is a woman representation in the actual political parliament system? But as you said, it is 33 on paper. As a sociology teacher and student, my concern would be, what is the actual participation at societal level? Or it is just like in India, we are having on paper reservation for women, but the actual actors are the male family members of that woman. Is this the case in Nepal too? That is my question, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is regarding the communist movement. Sir, why there is a failure of communist movement in India, and do we find that is there any future of communism in India as well as in Nepal?
We had president women, speaker women, chief justice women previously. Today, president is of course women. The rest position, of course they are, but they are not in executive position, only second. For example, not mayor, only deputy mayor. Not district level president, only deputy president, like this. As in the society, women are always second sex. In the position, they are still the second. But constitutionally, they are guaranteed. Let's hope for the better for the women in the future, that much I can say. It is nominal. Nowadays, we are also practicing very nominal, exactly very nominal. Came from the same corridor. Big leader's wife, president. Big leader's wife, speaker. Big leader's wife, chief justice. It hampers even, and it goes against women, ultimately. But so, women means actually those women who are fighting for the women in the people's level. That never happened. When the British rule had just begun in India, Prithvinarayan Saha, king of Gorkha was about to expand his state. While Plassey and Boxer wars were going on in Nepal, Prithvinarayan Saha was fight Kirtipur and Makwanpur wars.
Felicitate him with token of appreciation. Now I request my colleague Ashwini Biradar to introduce the speaker.
Good afternoon, everybody. I take immense pleasure to introduce Dr. KC, sir. Dr. Surendra KC is a retired professor at Tribhuvan University, Nepal's oldest and largest and wholly government-owned university. He has pursued MA and PhD in modern history. He has 37 years of teaching experience, published more than 25 books and more than 1,000 articles. He is columnist for different journals, daily papers and YouTube. His area of specialization and research experience are Gorkha recruitment, foreign policy and diplomacy, question of ethics, state restructuring and federalism in Nepal, and communist movement in Nepal. Dr. Surendra KC currently is a political analyst of Nepal. His analysis upon the politics of Nepal is mostly loud at social media, and his videos and his words are being appreciated by audience at social network. He is very eloquent and entertaining. He is not afraid to speak the truth. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you on this dais. Now I request Dr. Surendra KC, sir, to take over the stage. Sir, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be here this great event. So far, my presentation is on history and political journey of Nepal. This paper is divided two parts. Preliminary part is mostly formality or the background part. Second part is the actual part that goes to the history as well as the political journey of Nepal. So I just go from the preliminary part that is it is in written form also. Unfortunately, my misunderstanding regarding the presentation, I don't have the PowerPoint. So I'll try to go directly as my paper is here. At the outset, I would like to extend my deep gratitude to Dr. Deepak Tilak, Vice Chancellor, Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapith, who cordially invited me at this international conference on Lokmanya Tilak, maker of modern India, as speaker. As we all know, freedom fighter Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak has always been and will be in the memories of all Indians. The conference, organized on the occasion of this centenary with a view to passing on his great contribution and views down to the younger generation, is glorious itself. Therefore, on behalf of Nepali people, the intelligentsia, and the Tribhuvan University, which is the oldest university of the country, I extend my wishes for the successful completion of the program. I am a professor of history. Over 25 books and more than 1,500 articles are to my credit. Some of them are certainly related to the Indian history, culture, and religion. I have to study Indian history, culture, and religion right from the bachelor level. Later, I got engaged in this subject as a professor. Thus, my relation with Indian society, culture, and religion has been lively. On the other hand, the fact that Nepali blood and soul was inseparably associated with the 190 years long freedom fighting of India is remarkable in this context. Not only Manmohan Adhikari and B.P. Koirala, the most popular leaders of Nepal, were deeply associated with it, but also number of students, youths, writers, and general public have paid physical moral cost to it. The Nepali Congress, the first political party established abroad, had its organizational premises that Nepal was to remove itself from the dictatorial Rana regime. The fall of British colonialism from India was its precondition. As a result of this active role in the Indian freedom movement belief of the party, B.P. Koirala was imprisoned in the Hazaribagh jail for 3 years. Similarly, Manmohan Adhikari, leader of the Communist Party of Nepal, was imprisoned for 2 years for his involvement in the great struggle. During their imprisonment, they were very much influenced by the Indian leaders where they had lived in jails. Later, BP became a great democratic leader, whereas Adhikari a communist. Even today, a total 56,000 Gorkha are made safeguarding India as part of Indian Army. Recently, on 31st December 2019, Arjun Thapa, 25 of Gorkha municipality, 5 RIP, Nepal got martyrdom in the Jammu Kashmir line of control, bombing, leaving behind his newly married wife Sarita Thapa, Magar 20, and his 70 years old father Prem Bahadur Thapa. It campaigned a very big shock to Nepal. The marks of the tears are still vivid. Nepal and Nepalese are still attracted to these services. What is stunning is how this father is saying If he had another son, he would certainly send him to fulfill the place of his damaged son. Remember, Thapa is the seventh to get martyrdom in the last 2 years. News has it that the martyr Thapa's 20 years old widow has committed suicide, which is even makes shocking. As a student of history and a patriot of Nepal, it always humiliates me to think that Jangbahadur Rana, the founder of Rana regime, who ruled Nepal, which never saw foreign rule and hegemony, moreover fought for safeguarding the British sovereignty of many foreign countries, had militarily supported the British colonialists during mutiny of 1857. Now, standing before you, I apologize to the Indian people and the freedom fighters for it and regret what Jangbahadur Rana had done this most controversial job in the history. Otherwise, Nepalese and Indian have always been oriented together in the same criteria. This direction is the direction of world peace, humanity, co-working, and world fraternity. Majority of the people living in Nepal and India are having the same ideology, culture, and religion, and worship the same God in the same temples. Be it Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, Sita Ram, Shiva Parvati, or Lord Krishna. Before going into the Bal Gangadhar Tilak, let's have a look at the background of the direction of great fighting champion which had produced Tilak and his colleagues. Passing 3 phases, freedom fight had culminated is the achievement of freedom in 1947. They were the liberal era, extremist era, and the Gandhian era. While the liberal era was led by the leaders like Dadabhai Nauroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Surendranath Banerjee, the extremist era was under the prime leadership of Bal Gangadhar Tilak and others. He was to say, freedom is our birthright and we shall have it. Unfortunately, this freedom fighter made a sudden damage at the age of 64 on July 24, 1920, and could not see his dream fulfilled. But when on 15 August 1947, India got freedom, it was undoubtedly the concretized form of his inborn right of freedom. Therefore, now I am taking to you as a guest speaker on the contribution and sacrifice made by such a great leader, that too, on the auspicious occasion of this centenary. I feel this is the most glorious moment to my life, as I have been invited here not to talk the personality and actions of Tilakji, but to express my view on the history and political development of Nepal. Please allow me to do the same. So this was the preliminary part as the introductory background chapter. Because since I was asked to go or to present on the history and political journey of Nepal, my major part of the paper is history as well as the political development from the beginning up to now. Regarding this, I have divided my presentation into 7 points. First is prehistoric ages. Second, historical ages. Third, ancientness of Nepal. 4, greater Nepal. 5, demarcation of Nepal and the pen of Treaty of Sugauli. 6, political development and Nepal in brief. Lastly, conclusion. In prehistory age chapter, I have dealt about the prehistoric society of Nepal. The age of before the invention of writing is the prehistoric age. The latest findings or the conclusion of Nepali anthropologists or the historians is that Nepal's had her own prehistoric society and civilizations. but there is much research and work on it. We are not able to say much regarding the prehistory of Nepal. Few work, of course, have been done. 1952, 1960, 1962, 1964, 1966, 1969, 1970, 1978, 1981, and 84, 1996, 97. Many exploration have been done regarding this, but we have to research much yet. Preliminary thing only happened regarding this sector. Then come historical age. While prehistory historic study has not been carried out systematically in Nepal, even the historical study of Nepal has not got that clarity. Needless to say, the history supported by the written documents in historical ages, we see that far from associating with the overall history of mankind. The history of Nepal, in fact, has been the history of monarchy. According to the pillar inscription of Changunarayan, a Bhaktapur district founded by Lichavi King Mandev, remained the only historical evidence of the historicity of Nepal. From then on, we do find authentic orderly history of Nepal. We certainly found many ups and downs regarding the history, but it is not scattered and disordered. This historical facts show the geographical structure of Nepal from the Lichavi period to the 11th century. After that, we find many changes taking place exactly the same way prehistoric geographical structure of today. It is because of the backwardness of history writing that today we have to keep announcing that world famous Lord Gautam Buddha was born in Nepal. However, this fact cannot be hidden in the backwardness. What I meant to say is that we have to do a lot in the field of history writing also. Gautam Buddha born in fact Nepal. He's got enlightenment in India. But nowadays, Nepali peoples all over the world requesting that Gautam Buddha was born in Nepal. Because of this backward research standard of Nepali history, this confusion is prevailing. This is my point to say in this. Ancientness of Nepal. Nepal is regarded as one of the few most ancient countries in the world. Nepal is also among those countries which were never under foreign rule. From various studies, Nepalese as well as the foreign historians have come to the conclusion that the name Nepal of this country has been in the existence for almost 25 years back. However, the problem is that the term Nepal has been authentically used since the 6th century BS. Therefore, the history of term Nepal is based either on hearsay or as an imaginary and supernatural stories of genealogy. At first, the term Nepal is founded to have used in Atharva Parishista, that goes 600 BC. In it, Nepal has been mentioned along with 6 countries. Those 6 countries were Nepal, Videha, Udumbur, Avanti, Kamapura, Kekaya. 6 ancient ancient nation in this region were like this. Among these 6, Nepal is one of the ancient countries as the contextual document says. Now, I go to the expansion of Nepal. When the British rule had just begun in India, Prithvinarayan Saha, king of Gorkha was about to expand his state. While Plassey and Buxar wars were going on in Nepal, Prithvinarayan Saha was fight Kirtipur and Makwanpur wars. Not finding any other way, Digbandhan Sen, displaced king of Makwanpur, went to Nawab Mir Qasim of Bengal for help. Similarly, King Jayaprakash Mall of Kantipur sought help from British East India Company, but both the armies were badly defeated by the Gorkha army. The British was engaged with its colonial expansion while Gorkha carried on its campaign of state expansion. During the period, the British brought almost all India territory under the rule, while Prithvinarayan Shah expanding its Gorkha state up to Tista in the east and Kangra in the west. Thus, a greater Nepal was founded. Next, demarcation of Nepal and the pen of Treaty of Sugauli. In spite of the company government efforts for a friendly relation with Nepal, then leadership of Nepal was determined not to give and take of any kind with it. In such a situation, the British had no option but to war. On November 1st, 1814, the British waged war against Nepal, which lasted for 2 years. Finally, Nepal had to sign a humiliating and unequal treaty on 4 March 1816, and that treaty known as Treaty of Sugauli. This was the treaty which fixed the demarcation of Nepal at large. Now, political development. The Sugauli Treaty brought a remarkable change in the internal politics of Nepal. After the end of army ambition, the courtiers got engaged with internal intrigues for power. The powerful Prime Minister of war period, Bhimsen Thapa, got over 93 people, rivals, killed for being associated in the conspiracy of killing former king and regent Ran Bahadur Saha, and thus continued his rule unhindered for a long time. However, with the damage of Lalit Tripura Sundari on April 1st, 1832, minor King Rajendra Vikram Saha started to become more active, which eventually led for downfall to imprisonment of Bhimsen Thapa. He was accused of treason against the state. On July 20, 1839, made public that he committed suicide while in prison, not being able to bear the humiliation. Even his corpse was heinously treated by allowing dogs and jackals to snatch it. So terrible was this. Prime Minister was jailed. He was committed suicide because his wife had to demonstrate it in front of him nakedly, and he could not bear this and committed suicide. And also thrown to the bank of the river, and jackals and dogs ate. Such terrible political situations appear in Nepal. The result of this was political instability and rise of dictatorship. Fall of Bhimsen Thapa and rise of Rana rule. Rana rule, after the damage of Bhimsen Thapa, political instability started. That instability rise the dictatorship of Rana rule. That lasted 104 years in Nepal. It was cruel, like military rule. All the political activities were banned. It was like a family rule. Brother used to prime minister, brother to brother. These types of family rule. It was, they ruled at least for 404 years. Then political party, all established here in India, mostly Banaras or Calcutta. The Democratic Party, Nepali Congress, as well as the Communist Party, both established here in Calcutta, and just revolted against the Rana rule in Nepal. Ultimately, they toppled down the Rana regime and established the democratic rule. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party's rule also based on instability, struggling for the power. It also created much instability and uncertainty. Ultimately, king take over the power by the support of military. Again, people's movement started. King banned the parties, political activities were banned. king ruled at least 29 years there as a assertive monarch. The king imposed his dictatorial rule for 29 years. At the same time, the parties also continued their struggle for democracy to bring back. Big sacrifices were made, along with losses. Finally, the King Birendra was compelled, after 29 years, to lift ban on the political parties. Thus, as a result of the contribution of democracy was reinstated in the country. And then, all the process of democracy, along with election, continued. It was the Nepali Congress government that was dismissed. After 29 years, 99, the same party turned out victorious, and BP Koirala's youngest brother, Girija Prasad Koirala, became the first elected prime minister after the reinstatement of democracy. Unfortunately, the earlier trend was repeated. In politics, the same rivalry and the same conspiracies. Lure of power, no regards for others, and pulling the legs. As a result, the elected prime minister pushed the country into midterm election only after 3 years. And the party was defeated. For the first time, the country saw the communist government. However, instability and confusion in politics persisted. Now, rise of Maoists and the massacre of royal family. When the reinstated democracy could not deliver good governance and stability, an ultra-leftist faction of the Communist Party, named Communist Party of Nepal Maoists, launched People War on 13 February 1996. As usual, India became its dependable and friendly ground for the party. It formed its own military organization named People Liberation Army, sacking the whole state structures. It continued with its own local government and courts. 17,000 men killed, many wounded, and others displaced. While the country was facing all this, all of a sudden, a news shocked the whole world on the night of June 1st, 2001, at about 9 p.m. The royal family, which was in the military security in the place, was massacred. In the massacre, 10 members of family, including King Birendra, Queen Aishwarya, and Prince Dipendra. This way, royal massacre appeared in our country. Comprehensive peace agreement and the end of monarchy. Ultimately, what happened? Republican system come in our country. After the massacre of royal family, people started to think that there is no probability of royal rule. Republic government sooner or later come. Ultimately, same thing happened. King Gyanendra, who had taken the place of his brother King Birendra, did not run out as considerable and intelligent as his brother. It was evident in the on-reap vocal service. Not only this, on October 4, 2002, he went to the extent of dismissing Deoba government and taking power in his own hands, which was a move to irritate parties. Then continued the process of forming and dissolving governments one after another, but politics got no way out. This aside, in Delhi on November 22, 2005, the Maoist and the 7 political parties reached 12-point agreement. With this, they were ready to struggle against king. The 19-day-long people movement compelled the king to surrender. Then the dissolved House of Representatives was reinstated. Girija Prasad Koirala became the prime minister. The comprehensive peace agreement reached between the Maoist and the government on November 2, 2007, which opened up to the gate to interim government for the Maoists. Then the interim constitution was made, which suspended the king. The second meeting of the House of Representatives gave all the power to the Prime Minister, exercise the Parliament. It was the move which made monarchy irrelevant in the politics of Nepal. Eventually, on May 28, 2008, the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly declared Nepal as a federal democratic republic. This formally ending the 200 40 years long political leadership of the Shah dynasty, Nepal entered into a federal republic. It was in fact an epoch-making event in the history of Nepal. Then after interim constitution 2007, and lastly the conclusion. My conclusion is this regarding the history and political survey of Nepal, and this is the final chapter of my paper. Politically, our country is still facing the state of transition. The basic people are still far from the basic needs. So far, it was thought that monarchy and Hindu religion were the main factor behind the undevelopment and backwardness of the country proved false. Accordingly, the movement of 1951, 1990 and 2006 removed the Rana rule, partyless panchayati system and the monarchy respectively, and the country was turned to secular federal republic. However, the people have not realized any significant difference in their life. Despite that, the Constitution of Nepal 2015 has brought some of the fundamental practice of prime importance into practices. They are federal democratic setup, secularism, inclusiveness, orientation to socialism. Accordingly, the country has accomplished the task of promulgating the Constitution through the Constituent Assembly. Not only this, as per the new Constitution, the 753 local and 77 districts body, 7 provincial government and the federal government are being run by the elected representative of the people. Now the challenge we are facing in how to make it truly a people's federal republic. Thank you.
Anybody has any questions for KC sir? The paper is open for discussion. So if anybody wants to discuss or ask questions, please go ahead.
Sir, I am Dr Surendra. I have a question which is regarding to our relationship with China, Indian relationship with China. What is Nepal's stand in that relationship?
One by one, answer collectively. One by one. There are two schools of thought in Nepal regarding Sino-India relation or Indo-Nepal relation. One school of thought is Nepal-India should remain inseparably in one place, always, regarding Chinese factor. Another is, since we are non-aligned and sovereign nation, we should maintain the equidistance. King's times, we usually used to give stress for non-aligned and equidistant relations. After the restoration of democracy, as all know that parties system or the leaders almost relates their ideology. Ideologically, they conduct the foreign policy. If we come in India, definitely BJP's foreign policy is little bit different with the Congress foreign policy. Likewise, King's foreign policy differ with the party's foreign policy. But our mainstream thinking is equidistance, in fact. But the ground reality is we are very much, in terms of many things related with the India and Indians. Our matrimonial relation goes maximum to the southern side. It is not that the northern part of the Nepali relates with the Tibetan also. Matrimonially, trade point of view, many respecting many things. So, as I already mentioned, the school of thought, two type of school of thought are there. One school of thought is India, Nepal, bhai bhai. Another school of thought is China also not so far. So it is as I already mentioned in my paper, still we are in transitional condition. Politically, we have not able to settle the all questions regarding the people's needs and others. Foreign relations also in the same stage, I think.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Mr. Anand Sagar, studying in BLLB 4th year. My question is regarding what do you find the difference of constitutional law between India and Nepal? What is the constitutional difference you have?
Constitutionally, if we go constitutionally, I think the inclusiveness of the Nepali constitution spirit is something different with the Indian constitutions. We have adopted the inclusiveness of the state apparatus. We have at least 125 groups or castes or 123 language groups. And our constitution has adopted the inclusive responsibility of the constitutions. In every apparatus, state apparatus, there must be the inclusiveness. For example, 33% for the women, 16% for the particular groups, 1% another particular group. Like this, inclusive character, our Samvidhan, our constitution have adopted. I think India has not got this. I think this is the difference between the Nepal's constitution and the Indian constitution.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sabia Imran, Assistant Professor in Sociology. Actually, my question was, what is a woman representation in the actual political parliament system? But as you said, it is 33 on paper. As a sociology teacher and student, my concern would be, what is the actual participation at societal level? Or it is just like in India, we are having on paper reservation for women, but the actual actors are the male family members of that woman. Is this the case in Nepal too? That is my question, sir.
A really good question, thank you for this. Practically, still it is challenging, even in the case of women. If we go through in the last Constituent Assembly, there was exactly 33% participation in the Constituent Assembly, exactly 33, as the constitutions prescribed. This time only 29% is there. Previously what happened? We had President women, Speaker women, Chief Justice women, previously. Today, President is of course women. The rest position, of course they are, but they are not in executive position, only second. For example, not mayor, only deputy mayor. Not district level president, only deputy president, like this. As in the society, women are always second sex. In the position, they are still the second. But constitutionally, they are guaranteed. Let's hope for the better for the women in the future, that much I can say. It is nominal, Nowadays, we are also practicing very nominal, exactly very nominal. This is the
70
situation.
years we are also hoping, sir. So for Nepal it is still a transition period. In India after 70 years also we are hoping for the equivalent position.
On gender basis. I mean, the slogan right now we are having is Adi Abadi Hak Pura Hak Chahiye. Though women constitute 50% of the population. So as compared to India, Nepal is in a very initial stage as far as democratic principles are concerned. So one can understand after 70 years in India, we are still struggling for the equivalent position. But I think to challenge it on a constitutional line, the very first step should be we have to challenge it on cultural line, religious line, on our day-to-day line. For that we need to change our socialization pattern right from the beginning. This is what my opinion, sir.
Opinion is definitely superb, but if we go in the practical level, if you take the example even of Nepal, what as a male thinking is regarding this, whenever the female are representing, they actually, I think not female, they are the, leaders, right, left. It also hampering. For example, the president or the speaker, even the chief justice came from the same corridor. Big leader's wife, president. Big leader's wife, speaker. Big leader's wife, chief justice. It hampers even, and it goes against women, ultimately. But so, women means actually those women who are fighting for the women in the people's level. That never happened. India also example for that. Not only India, even Pakistan. If you go to Sri Lanka, even Bangladesh. So this is the real condition regarding the women participation in our country.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is regarding the communist movement. Sir, why there is a failure of communist movement in India, and do we find that is there any future of communism in India as well as in Nepal?
The not able to modernize the society in terms of economy, employment generation, and the transformation of society, I think is the reason behind the flourishing the communism in India and Nepal. For example, in Nepal, nowadays they are near in 2/3 majority position. Government is of course there, and Maoist, they are equivalent to the Indian Maoist. They are same footing. Topple the state for power there in Nepal. If we come in India, 2 years back, I had a paper in Uttarakhand, Dehradun. The topic was Maoist movement in Nepal and its impact to India. Regarding that paper, I followed the Maoist position in India. The conclusion was 33% of the territory of India is being threatened by the Indian Maoist. Now, the great security threat for India is even same Maoist. Now, it is a vast topic. Why such type of position is here in India as big power, wealthy nations? Maoist threat is like this is not a, I think, common thing. It is a extraordinary thing. gap between poor and rich is very bad in India even. So the infrastructure supporting the Maoist, we have to find out why Maoists are there, what is the reason behind. Only then we can tackle and settle the Maoist. One thing is remarkable, globally the communists are same, regionally Nepali Maoist and the Indian Maoist are the same.